Reddit stories, I met my bully at my high school reunion. She left the invite on the table, I said to my friend Matt. So, are you coming to the reunion? Matt asked me. You know I hated that place, I replied. Plus, I may have to see that asshole. She wants you to go, Matt replied. You are a successful author. You have a wonderful fiancé, and he isn't anything he peaked in high school. I just had that conversation with my best friend, Matt. Jake, am an author. I was invited to my 15th high school reunion. I have been trying to find a million reasons not to go. The main one being I will have to see my high school bully, Richard Ace Thompson. I was what you would call a nerd. GPA 4.0, took some college classes, was a mathlete. I had very few friends. It was usually Matt and me. Though sometimes we spent time together with Jess. We even went to prom. Jess had a friend, Amy. Amy was my rival for valedictorian. She was smart and driven. She was determined to go to a good school. She won. We were invisible to most people with the exception of Ace. Ace was captain of the football team. He was the elite athlete. He was also as dumb as a box of rocks. He terrorized me. It started in our junior year. I was asked to tutor the head cheerleader, Rachel, in math and science. She was amazing. Homecoming queen, prom queen. She was beautiful. Jess was jealous of the time I spent with her. Ace used to punch me. He locked me in a locker. He was a thug and a bully. I honestly say I hated him. He thought he was going to the NFL. The big colleges were looking at him. He usually got what he wanted, and what he wanted was Rachel. She, however, hated him. If it was not for the coach, Coach Turner, I feel that Ace may have been expelled. But the star athlete gets away with more than most. I survived high school, went to college, moved to the city, and started writing novels whilst working at a law firm. Then my fiancé of 7 years handed me an invitation to the high school reunion. We were in the same class, however, she wanted us to go. As if we were single rather than a couple, she wants to use it as a way for people to talk freely to us, and we can compare notes. Also, she told me that I may find an inspiration for my next book. Matt knows my fiancé. He has been sworn to secrecy. I would say it would be good to see all the old faces again, but there are not that many faces I would like to see. I must go because I need to drop our child off at my parents' place. We are going to have a child-free night tonight. I will try to update you through the night, though it may be a bit boring. I got to the venue at 8 p.m. To greet me was the principal, Penny Smith. Penny was one of the popular crowd led by Rachel. Whilst I was at school, she was also class president. Hi, Jake. How are you? She greeted me cheerfully. I am fine, Penny, and you? I replied. Your agent rang about the new library. I am looking forward to having a good study space for the kids, Penny said excitedly. What is this about a library? Matt asked as he arrived. Mr. Johnson here is donating the funds to build a new library for the school, Penny replied. You can collect your name badges at the front desk. Thanks, Mrs. Smith, I say as I walk with Matt into the reception. I am greeted by the smiling face of Rachel Harris and her best friend Audrey Peters. Audrey had a red gown on with her light brown hair worn shoulder length, and her hazel eyes rolled when she saw Matt and I. Rachel was wearing a light blue gown, long blonde hair tied into a ponytail. Her blue eyes looked like they could pierce your soul. Names, please? Rachel asked. Audrey looked slightly shocked. Jake Johnson, I replied to Rachel. Oh, the author. I have an audition for one of your book adaptations next week, Rachel tells me. As Rachel is looking for my name badge, I scan the names. Jessica Morgan's name is there, as well as Richard Thompson. I see Not So is coming. I say Not So. Audrey questions as she hands Matt a badge, saying Matthew Jones. Not So Ace, Matt replies. Rachel and Audrey laugh. That is a good one. I may have to use it. Rachel says Rachel hands me a badge saying Jacob Johnson. Is Amy Perry not coming? I inquire. She is already here. Rachel says, have fun. See you in there, I reply. I walk in. There is about 9 people in the room. In the corner are 3 guys, hooting and laughing. They were the stoner kids. By the DJ is Coach Turner, still looking as mean as ever, just older. There are 2 women talking, one of which is Rebecca. She looks 5 months pregnant, with short blonde hair. I do not know the other one. Her high school boyfriend Adam joins them and hands the friend a glass of wine, and Rebecca what looks like an orange juice. I looked over to the bar and saw Amy wearing an ivory dress on her ebony skin. Her dark brown hair had been straightened. She was being spoken to by one of the jocks, looking really bored. I cannot remember his name, but Matt and I called him NPC Chad. Amy, looking for freedom, spotted us, broke away, and came rushing up with a squeal. "Jake, Matt, it's so good to see you." "You look taller, Amy," I joked. "You look whiter," she replied. "Do you ever go outside?" "Drink?" I asked. "Beer, Matt?" "White wine," Amy replies. I get to the bar and place the order, seeing NPC Chad giving me daggers, muttering he was in there. Amy would not give him the time of day. I grab our drinks. "Not drinking?" Amy asked. "I am driving," I replied. "I saw Jess is coming." "Yes, have you forgiven her for prom yet?" Amy asked. "Forgive her for what?" I asked. "She made her choice that night, I made mine, that is it." "What's up, sis?" Robbie Perry asked. Interrupting us, Robert Perry is Amy's twin and was the star running back. He looked at the bar. "Why is he giving you lot evils?" "Who, NPC Chad?" Matt asks. Robbie roars with laughter. "Yes, that's him. He was making eyes at your sister and didn't like your sister coming over here to us. With our resident superstar in the house who would be surprised, he has made a lot of women very happy with those books of his." Robbie said. "Wouldn't you believe it?" muttered Amy. "I know you like his books, sis. Anyway, bye," said Robbie before turning. "Hey, Chad, how are you doing?" "My name isn't Chad, Robbie," NPC Chad replied. I went to the toilet. Whilst in there, I overheard a conversation between two other players talking about how hot Rachel and Audrey were and the things they would do to them. Then one of them started talking about how Ace was coming but would be slightly late. They were talking about the fact that he failed his test and was not allowed to go to college, and that he is working some dead-end job, but he drives a motorcycle. I went to the bar to get some more drinks when I overhear Robbie say loudly, "Dude, that is my sister." Obviously, NPC Chad was being inappropriate about Amy. NPC Chad was then discussing why Ace did not end up getting a scholarship. I grabbed our drinks and went back to the table. Amy and Matt were talking about her job as a lawyer and a divorce Amy worked on recently. She was telling the story of a father who was divorcing his wife for infidelity. They had signed a prenup. The prenup had an infidelity clause. The wife was a real Karen. According to Amy, she was trying to get the clause overturned, as in her words, "I only had it put in to protect me from him cheating, not for me to lose my half of his money." The real fight was for their 3-year-old daughter. Both wanted full custody. A DNA test had to be done, as she claimed client was not the father. Turns out he was. Originally, the judge awarded 50-50 custody. Karen started to Karen and demanded to see the judge's manager. "I kid you not," Amy said. Karen was found in contempt, and full custody was awarded to Dad with supervised visitation with Mom. Amy was saying the only thing she regretted in that situation is that Dad was hot, and she would have loved to get to know him better, but she had to stay professional. I was in the middle of telling Amy she should have gone for it when a beautiful redhead walked into the room in an emerald green dress that matched her green eyes. The room seemingly stopped to look at her. Her eyes scanned the room and rested on me. She stopped, looked a bit awkward, and smiled. She walked over to our table and hugged Amy. "Hello, Jessica," I said to the new arrival. "Jake," Jessica replied, her voice soft but with a hint of hesitation. She pulled back from the hug and looked at me, her green eyes searching mine for a moment before glancing down at the drink in my hand. "Is that for me?" "Sure," I said, handing her the glass. My hand brushed against hers, and for a split second, it felt like we were back in high school again. Those days of awkwardness, unspoken words, and the memories of prom night hanging between us like a ghost. Jessica took a sip of the drink, her eyes never leaving mine. "It's been a long time," she finally said, breaking the silence. 15 years, I replied, leaning back against the table, trying to look casual. But the truth was, seeing her here, standing so close, brought back everything I thought I had buried. "You look different. Better or worse?" she asked with a wry smile, though I could sense the vulnerability in her voice. "Just different," I said, not wanting to give her the satisfaction of a compliment, but also not wanting to lie. The truth was, she looked stunning, and it unnerved me. I had spent years convincing myself that the past was behind me, that she was just a chapter in a book I had long since finished. But now, seeing her here, I wasn't so sure. Matt and Amy were still deep in conversation, completely oblivious to the tension that had settled between Jessica and me. The room seemed to have quieted down, or maybe it was just that everything else had faded into the background. All I could focus on was Jessica and the unspoken history between us. "So, are you here alone?" she asked, breaking the silence again, her tone careful, like she was testing the waters. "No," I said, glancing around the room as if looking for someone. "My fiancée is here somewhere. She's mingling, you know." Jessica raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued but not pushing further. "Fiancé, huh? I guess life worked out pretty well for you after all." I shrugged. "It's had its ups and downs. What about you? How's life been treating you?" She hesitated, glancing away for a moment. "It's been complicated," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But we all have our stories, don't we?" Before I could ask her to elaborate, the doors to the hall opened, and the room fell into a hush as Richard Ace Thompson strode in. He was older, bulkier, and there was a weariness in his eyes that hadn't been there before, but the same cocky swagger was unmistakable. For a moment, our eyes met, and the memories of every shove, every taunt, every bruise came flooding back. My heart raced, my hand instinctively clenching into a fist at my side. But then something unexpected happened. Ace looked away. He didn't smirk or give me that condescending grin I had been expecting. Instead, he walked over to the bar, ordered a drink, and settled into a corner by himself, his shoulders slumped like a man carrying the weight of the world on his back. "Wow," Matt muttered, leaning over to me. "He doesn't look so Ace anymore, does he?" "No," I said, my voice tight. "He doesn't." Jessica followed my gaze, her expression unreadable. "People change," she murmured, almost to herself. "Do they?" I asked, more to myself than to her. It was a question I had been wrestling with for years. Could people really change, or were we all just playing out the roles we had been assigned in high school, over and over again? Before I could get lost in my thoughts, Amy nudged me. "Jake, dance with me," she demanded, a playful grin on her face. "I don't care if you're a famous author now. You're still obligated to dance with your old rival." I chuckled, letting her pull me towards the dance floor. As the music played and we moved to the rhythm, I couldn't help but steal a glance at Jessica, who was now talking to Matt. It was strange, seeing all these people from my past, people I had once thought I would never see again. As the night went on, the reunion became a blur of old faces, awkward small talk, and the occasional genuine connection. But my mind kept drifting back to Jessica and Ace, the two people who had left the deepest marks on my high school experience in very different ways. Eventually, I found myself outside, needing some air. The night was cool and the stars were just visible above the city lights. I leaned against the wall, letting the sounds of the reunion fade into the background. "Mind if I join you?" a voice asked, breaking the silence. I turned to see Jessica standing there, her arms crossed, her expression thoughtful. "Sure," I said, gesturing to the spot next to me. We stood there in silence for a while, the only sound the distant hum of traffic and the muffled music from inside. "Jake," she finally said, her voice soft. "I'm sorry." I looked at her, surprised. "For what?" "For prom," she said, her eyes meeting mine. For everything. I should have been braver, should have made a different choice. I've regretted it for a long time. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to tell her it was all in the past, that it didn't matter anymore. But another part of me, the part that had held on to that hurt for years, wasn't so sure. You don't have to apologize, I said finally. We were kids. We made mistakes. It was a long time ago. Jessica nodded, but I could see the sadness in her eyes. Yeah, she said quietly, a long time ago. We fell into silence again, and for a moment, it felt like nothing had changed, like we were still those two awkward teenagers trying to figure out the world and each other. But things had changed. We had changed. And maybe, just maybe, we could both find a way to let go of the past and move forward. As I stood there with Jessica by my side and the sounds of the reunion drifting through the night, I realized something. Maybe I had come to this reunion to confront my past, but I didn't have to let it define my future. Come on, I said, pushing off the wall. Let's go back inside. There's still time to make some new memories. Jessica smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. Yeah, she said. I'd like that. And as we walked back inside together, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The past was still there, but it didn't have to hold me down anymore. I was ready to let it go and maybe, just maybe, start writing a new story. If you guys like Reddit stories like these, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. Thanks.